Welcome to the session on internal environmental analysis. Firms normally follow two competing models of competitive advantage. In our lecture 2, we focused on the external environment, which is the foundation of one model, the traditional model, which is called the industrial organizational model or IO model. This model views that external forces such as entry barriers, rivalry, bargaining power of buyers and suppliers, complementary products, they are the dominant influences on a firm's competitive advantage. The IO model proposes that firms develop competitive advantage by assessing or predicting competitors' actions and then developing counter strategies that give them an advantage or an upper hand. So the strategy is dictated by the external environment, considering what opportunities and threats are present in those environments. So once they identify the opportunities and threats in the environment, firms then develop internal skills that are required to exploit external opportunities and address the threats therein. It is basically an outside in approach. So you basically see what is happening outside and accordingly you identify the opportunity and threats from there, and then accordingly companies build their skills so that they can exploit those opportunities or address that threat. This is the reason we see that some companies' performance is good because they have selected an industry which is profitable. So profitable in the sense that that company's bargaining power of buyers may not be very strong, bargaining powers of buyer may not be very strong, and the rivalry is not very high, but the entry barrier is really high. So they use those forces to decide which industry they should be in, and accordingly if the industry is profitable, they also make profit. So the choice of industry affects firm's performance according to the industrial organizational model. However, within any given industry, some companies are more profitable than others. So even if you choose any industry, you see that not every company is really performing at the equal rate. Some companies performing at a very high rate, and some companies' performance is really poor. So the question remains, why do some companies do better than their competitors within the given industry? Moreover, there are examples that suggest that while some industries are not highly profitable or not profitable at all, but some companies in those poorly performing industries do fantastically performance-wise. The reverse may also be true. So why these companies do better than others? What is the basis of their competitive advantage? So this is the focus of today's session. So the aim is to explore the basis of competitive advantage at the level of the individual company. So how, due to the individual company's strengths and weakness, they are able to gain competitive advantage is not dictated by the company's external environment. So the emphasis will be on internal resources and their potential to create competitive advantage for the firm, which falls in line with the resource-based view or resource-based model, which is the alternative to the IO model of competitive advantage. According to resource-based view, the difference in firms' performance are due primarily to their unique resources and capabilities rather than the structural characteristics of the industry. So this is basically an inside-out approach which stresses a company to build unique resources and capabilities. So we should be building unique resources and capabilities and find in the industry or environment where these resources and capabilities can be exploited. So the company's strategy is dictated by its unique resources and capabilities and not by the external forces. Internal analysis provides managers the information they need to choose the business model and strategies that will enable their company to attain a sustained competitive advantage. By completing the internal analysis, a firm can or must identify their strengths and weaknesses in terms of their resources, capabilities, and distinctive competencies. So we will in here will try to identify the strengths and weakness of a firm, the strength and weakness in terms of three things: in terms of resources, in terms of capabilities, and in terms of their distinctive competencies. This is very important session because this introduces a framework for understanding competitive advantage that will be used throughout the course. So instead of just looking at what kind of opportunities and threats are there, we are basically suggesting that companies should also build their own resources, unique kind of resources, unique kind of strengths that can give them a competitive advantage which could be sustainable for a longer period of time. Okay, so in here we'll identify 4 main reasons why some companies perform better than others. And they are called, these 4 main reasons are called building blocks of competitive advantage. They include customer responsiveness, efficiency, quality, and innovation. We'll see the roots of competitive advantage can be found in a number of key areas, which include distinctive competencies, resources, and capabilities. We'll examine the role of distinctive competencies in helping to achieve the 4 building blocks of competitive advantage. Distinctive competencies arise from a firm's resources and capabilities. And companies that have superior performance in one or more of these building blocks are able to differentiate their products and or reduce cost, which leads to value creation and higher profitability. Now, value or benefits or utility is measured by a product performance and by its attributes for which customers are willing to pay. So if the company creates more value for their customers, then the customers will be willing to pay more price for the product. And that is how, if the cost remains static and the price is higher or the premium price, then company can earn above average profit. So therefore, firms must be able to provide value to customers that is superior to the value provided by competitors in order to create a competitive advantage. So if our company wants to create competitive advantage, we must provide a product that offers superior value compared to the product of the competitors. And we can create this superior value product if we have the core competencies and capabilities in terms of our building blocks, which is efficiency, innovations, customer responsiveness, and quality. So if we can produce high quality product, if we are capable or if we have the distinctive competencies in offering innovative products, if we have the distinctive competencies in offering customer responsive product, that will create more value for the customer, because customers will see this product as more valuable, more benefited for them compared to the competitor products. So then what we are going to discuss again here, we will discuss the value chain that aims to show us how different value creation activities of a company fit together. A point strongly emphasized here is that each of the value chain activities, we'll discuss all these things in this chapter or in this session, such as research and development, operations, marketing, or human resources. They all have a potential source of value creation. They can create value. Then we'll talk about how we can sustain our competitive advantage for a longer period of time. So once we create the competitive advantage, then the question is, are we going to lose it? can we really sustain it for a longer period of time? So maybe Apple has got, say, the distinctive competencies in developing innovative products. Now, will they lose it? That all depends on few factors. We'll discuss how we can make sure that we do not lose it. Okay, but over time, any firm's value creating strategy can be duplicated. So even if we try really hard, we see that it is difficult for a company to sustain its competitive advantage for a longer period of time, because the competitors will ultimately copy or duplicate your distinctive competencies. Apple distinctive competencies is also copied by their its competitors, and that will happen, except I can see companies like Coca-Cola's secret formula that is difficult to copy, but most of the time we see that companies' distinctive competencies or capabilities are being copied by their competitors. We'll discuss how we can stop it or how we can delay the process of copying. And finally, we'll explore how once successful companies actually fail. Company was really successful, but then they couldn't sustain their success. They fail eventually. So we'll conclude the session by suggesting ways that companies can follow to avoid this competitive failure and sustain their competitive advantage. So before I discuss the today's session on how we can achieve competitive advantage, what kind of resources and core competencies we need to build for that, what are the building blocks of competitive advantage, and how we can sustain it for a longer period of time, let's focus on this distinction between the RBV model and the industrial organizational model. So the industrial organizational model actually assume that companies, or believes that the company's performance depends on the external forces to the company. That means what is happening in the environment in terms of the opportunities and threat, and that will determine whether some industry is attractive or not. Okay, if we see, for example, our customers are powerful, that's not an attractive industry. If we see that the rivalry is high, the industry is not attractive. If we see that the entry barrier is also very weak, that is not attractive industry. So we basically consider those opportunities and threats, and then we decide which industry a company should enter. And then they make the or they adopt the strategies about like how they should be competing in that industry, maybe either by being a cost leader or by being a differentiator, or and also then try to develop the skills and resources that are needed or that are required to compete in that industry. And following that, they implement the strategies and achieve superior return. But the modern view is, instead of rather depending on the external environment, we rather should be focusing on building our resources and capabilities within the organization. So we actually find out what industry or environment would be right industry for us, depending on what kind of resources do we have. For example, if you are a mathematician, if you have resources or skills in mathematics, then you probably would not teach something like English literature, because that is not your resources and capabilities. So what you do, or if you are good in English literature, probably then you would not probably teach something like that is not your core competency, that is probably, say, history, or maybe mathematics. History, yeah, you can teach history, but maybe mathematics. So in here, the focus is actually on building resources which are unique and which are valuable. Okay, that is important. Then of course the other thing is important, like the environment, but that is most important. Okay, that is resource based view. And if you can build the unique resources and valuable resources, then you will be able to achieve competitive advantage. And then you decide what industry or environment you should be using your resources and competencies to achieve competitive advantage in there. So that would be the attractive industry for you, not because it gives you opportunities and trade, but because you have the right kind of resources and skills to exploit the opportunity and threats in that environment. And then you implement the strategy that will lead to superior performance. Okay, so this is this distinction that I thought that I should be giving you some understanding in here before I go to the next step. That will help. So let's start with the concept of competitive advantage and the roots of competitive advantage. We already know that a company has a competitive advantage when its profit rate is higher than the average for its industry. And it has a sustained competitive advantage when it is able to maintain this high profit rate over a number of years. So achieving competitive advantage is the primary purpose of strategy or strategic management. Now, competitive advantage derives from a firm's distinctive competencies, which are of two types. One is resources, another is capabilities. So resources can be tangible, such as land, buildings, plant, and equipment, and it can also be intangible, such as brand names, reputation, patents, technological and marketing know-how. A firm's intangible resources can also be classified as human resources, such as knowledge, trust, and ability to collaborate with others. Innovation resources, such as ideas, scientific capabilities, and capacity to innovate. And reputational resources such as brand name, perceptions of quality, durability, and reliability, and a positive reputation with stakeholders. Now, resources that are firm specific, that means you have it, no other firm has it, and resources that are difficult to imitate are unique. So they create a barriers to imitate. Your competitors cannot copy these resources easily. And resources that create a strong demand for that firm's products are valuable. So when a company has got unique and valuable resources, that will basically help them build their distinctive competencies. The argument is that if a company possesses resources that are valuable and unique or rare, so that they cannot be easily duplicated, then the company will have a competitive advantage. Now remember, every firm possesses both tangible and intangible resources. But intangible resources such as knowledgeable human capital are critically important in almost every organization, but most importantly in service organization. A firm's reputation is another form of intangible resources. Now, firms' competitive advantage is more robust and protected and unique when they are based on intangible resources. Why is that? It is because they are difficult to imitate. You cannot copy it, and company loses its competitive advantage as soon as this is copied by your competitors. So firm should strive to build competitive advantage, distinctive competencies, capabilities, or resources based on competitive advantage based on intangible resources. Tangible resources, if company tries to build their competitive advantage or distinctive competency based on tangible resources, they won't be able to sustain it for a longer period of time because it is tangible. People can, or competitors can, see what do you have, and then they can build that kind of resource easily. Like your brain is difficult to copy, but if you have a car or if you have a building, that your computers can easily copy. If you have talented human resources, if you have scientists, chemists, pharmacists, good marketeer, good economist, their brain is difficult to copy. So what I suggest in here, when you try to build competitive advantage, your focus should be more on building resources, unique resources that is based on uh, intangible resources. Now, capabilities. Capabilities refer to a company's skills at coordinating its resources and putting them into productive use. So it is also intangible. Okay, so these skills or capabilities reside in the way a company makes decision and manages its internal process, that is rules, routines, procedures, structure, policies. Capabilities are by definition intangible. They reside not so much in individuals as in the way individuals react, cooperate, and make decisions within the context of the organization. So they lead, or capabilities lead to sustained competitive advantage if they are rare and protected from copying. Now, another point that I would like to stress in here, that we must understand the distinction between resources, capabilities, and competencies in order to make sure that our competitive advantage is protected. Now, a company may have unique and valuable resources. Unique means it cannot be copied or it is protected from copying, and it is valuable because it is the major product that the company needs to produce its own product. But unless it has the capacity to use those resources effectively, it may not be able to create or sustain a distinctive competencies. So your resources can be more valuable, more unique, but if you cannot effectively use these resources, then we will not be able to create or sustain a competitive advantage, and that is why the question of capability comes in. So unique and valuable resources are helpful in creating distinctive competencies, but capabilities are essential. For example, if you have the scientist in your organization, okay, good scientist, and they can innovate new product almost every week, but if the company's rules, regulations, and policy and leaderships are not really good, okay, if they are not able to coordinate these resources into productive use, then these scientists will not be able to create any kind of value for the customer and for the company as well. So distinctive competencies is actually strongest when a company possesses both resources and capabilities. Just resources is not going to help you. The university, for example, a university has got a lot of PhD academics, but if we see that we really cannot use them, our leadership fails to use them, coordinate them so that they can publish, then the university cannot achieve any competitive advantage. Okay. So by completing an internal analysis, firms can or must identify their strength and weakness in terms of three things: resources, capabilities, and core competencies or distinctive competencies. Okay, so these are the examples of firms' capabilities. You can see in almost every functional area like manufacturing, research and development, distribution, marketing. These are the basic or the primary activities of a company, as well as the support activities like human resources, management, information system, and management. We can see that we have capabilities in every functional area as well as general management area, both in the primary activities and support activities. Now it would be good to take successful company, if you can take a successful company and find out how they have been able to develop capabilities. from either tangible and intangible resources. I think that will make your understanding a bit more clear. Now, while doing so, please consider a mix of different types of business and industries. So you can take some companies like from the garments or from the IT, and then try to find out what are their capabilities. Okay, when you do that, please try to identify it in every possible functional areas as well as the general management area. Now, in figuring out if any resources and capabilities can be considered as distinctive competence or core competencies, we often consider these four criteria. So these are the four criteria we normally use when we try to figure out whether any resource or capabilities can be considered as distinctive capabilities. Distinctive means they are unique, they are valuable, they are difficult to copy, and they have almost no substitute. So these are called VRIN model. VRIN model actually determines if any resource and capabilities can become a distinctive competencies, and if so, they have the ability to achieve competitive advantage. So I just repeat one more time that in order to achieve competitive advantage, what we need to do, we need to build distinctive capabilities. And distinctive capabilities come from two sources. One is resource, another is capabilities. Resources can be tangible and intangible, and capabilities are always intangible. Now, what I said, that company can create distinctive competencies if that is based on intangible resources. Why? Because intangible resources are difficult to copy. I have given you the example of your brain, or scientist's brain, that is difficult to copy, or mathematician's brain is difficult to copy. But if you have some physical asset, that is easier to copy. If your competitors has got 5 buildings, you can have 5 buildings, because there is nothing that you cannot copy of the building, so is easy. But if they have got good scientists in there, and they have got good human resource management quality, their leaders are good, they are good in making strategic plans, environmental analysis and internal analysis, and if you do not have it, it means they have the distinctive competencies. So with that, as I again say, that when you basically try to understand if any resources and capabilities can be called core competencies or distinct competencies, you just use these 4 criteria. It has to be valuable, it has to be rare. If it is not rare, then everybody has it, and when it is possessed by everyone, then it cannot give you an extra advantage in the industry. Everybody has it. It has to be unique and costly to imitate. Look, sooner or later everything would be copied, but manager's job would be, or manager should always try to make this process longer. If you develop say a technology today, a smartphone today, and if it is copied tomorrow, then you lose it tomorrow. So what you need to do, you make it in such a difficult way, such a unique way, so that I'm sure that competitors will be able to copy it, but make it in such a difficult way so that it takes a lot of time to copy. Because as soon as your core competencies are copied by your competitors, you lose your competitive advantage. Okay, and this is why we say one thing, that no competitive advantage is permanent. Every competitive advantage is temporary. Okay, so what companies need to do? Company needs to continually build resources and core competencies that are unique and that are valuable, that are rare, and that has got almost no substitutions or substitutions. Yes. So based on these 4 criteria, Now you can easily assess whether a company has achieved competitive advantage or sustainable competitive advantage. You see, when you analyze a company's internal environment, when you analyze the company's resources and competencies uh, and capability, you basically ask those four questions. First of all, is the capability valuable? No. Is it rare? No. Is it costly to imitate? No. Is the capability non-substitutable? No. In that kind of cases, your performance will be below average performance. You will be a poorly performing company in the industry. That means you do not have any competitive advantage. You have basically competitive disadvantage. But if your capability is valuable, yes. It is rare, of course it is. That means it is unique. It is costly to imitate, yes. Does it have any substitute? Yes or no, doesn't matter much. But then you will be able to achieve sustainable competitive advantage. That means you will be able to make more profit. Your competitors do not have those kind of stuff, so they cannot, because they do not have those capabilities, they are not able to provide goods and services that create more value for the customers compared to you. So you can charge premium price because you are giving them unique kind of services, but your competitors, they do not have those kind of product to offer because they haven't been able to develop those unique and valuable and rare kind of capabilities. Now if you have capability which is valuable but it is not rare, that means every company has it. Like every mobile phone companies or every pharmaceutical companies know how to make medicine and how it works on human body, right? It is not rare. If that is the case, then their performance would be average return, and then we call that situation is competitive parity, not sustainable competitive advantage. Why? Because again you see that they have something that everybody has it. They have some kind of skills and core competencies that is possessed by every other competitor. So how you are different? If you are not different, if you get an D and or if you get an HD and other students got C, then you are unique. But if everyone get HDs, and then you are not unique, you are like a general performer. Okay, so same thing applies in business. The last one is, if the is the capability valuable? Yes. Rare? Yes. Is it difficult to imitate? No. That means other competitors can easily imitate it. That means you lose it. So when you lose it, it is valuable, it is rare, but you cannot retain it. That means your competitive advantage is also gone with that. As soon as the competitors are able to copy it, your competitive advantage will not be sustaining anymore. So that is why we call is a temporary competitive advantage. Actually, in most of the cases, most of the competitive advantages are temporary. Why? Because sooner or later, every competitor will be able to copy, or at least some of your competitors will be able to copy what you have in terms of your resources and capabilities. So as soon as Apple came with the smartphone, you see how many companies are now able to copy uh, their core competencies or distinctive competencies, their capabilities. But Apple hasn't stopped. Apple has been continuing developing new core competencies or distinctive capabilities or capabilities. Okay, that's why they come in every year, they come with a new version of their phone. Okay, the competitors are chasing them, they are copying them, but sometimes for them it takes a lot of time. So the moment they finish copying, Apple comes up with a newer version. So that is how you have to always sustain your competitor. You have to be always one step ahead of your competitors. So now, with our understanding, I can put these ideas that we have discussed so far into a kind of a model in here. This basically this figure basically shows the link between our distinctive competencies and our competitive advantage, and it also shows the role of strategy, that the role of strategy is shaped by distinctive competencies which lead to competitive advantage and superior profitability. So you can see, like, in order to be a superior performer, or in order to make above average profit, which is competitive advantage, a company actually need to build what? Company actually need to build its resources and capabilities in a way that actually gives them a distinctive competency. That means they are unique, they are valuable, they are rare, and they have got few substitute or no substitute. Once you have it, then you have distinctive competencies in the area of efficiency, quality, innovation, and customer responsiveness. For example, if you have those distinctive competencies, that means you will be able to offer innovative products. Okay, so if you offer innovative products, high quality product, that means you will be following the business level strategy of differentiation. And if you are efficient because of some kind of capabilities you have, your competitors do not have, then you are able to achieve or offer product that are lower in terms of the cost structure compared to your competitors. So that create value. That means your customers see that your product offers better value than what their competitors are offering. Okay, and that is how if they see that the product is high quality product, the product is innovative product, then you charge premium price. If you say that the product is cheaper, probably then it also create value, because then the cost is going to be cheaper. And then if your price is still the same, you can make good profit, because at the end of the day, profit is price minus cost. So either way, either you make your product highly differentiated, then you will be able to charge premium price, or you make your product as a low cost product. That is how also you will be able to make the difference between price and cost bigger, and ultimately that leads to superior profitability. Now the next few slides actually show that a company's profit rate and hence the competitive advantage is determined by the value or utility customers place on the company's goods and services. Secondly, the price the company charges for the products or services, and thirdly, the company's cost of production. So whether the company is going to make profit or not, that depends on these three things. One is value is assigned by the customers, the price that you are going to charge, and the cost of production. Value is, since it is perceived by customers based on the product attributes such as performance, design, and quality. The more value a company creates, the more flexibility it has in assigning a price. So if you can add more value, if you can create more value, that means product is more reliable, product is more functional, product looks good, that means you will be able to charge more and more and more price. Okay, so the focus is on enhancing perceived value. This is an important concept that I would like to clarify. For example, if the company claims that the product's cost was $10, but if the customers perceive that the product offers them not more than a value of say $20, customers will be willing to pay up to $20 as price. So the point that I am making here is that since customers assign the value, company should aim to enhance the perceived value as high as possible, because sometimes the companies can spend $10 to make a product, but when it is offered to the customers, customers may assign the perceived value of the product $5, meaning they will not be willing to pay more than $5. So it doesn't matter how much cost company is spending to make the product. The most important thing, how the customers perceive the value of the product. If they feel that the product is highly valuable, then they will not mind paying a premium price. For example, Rolex watch. The value is, you see, the perceived value is so high, but the cost is not that high to produce that Rolex watch. Even the gold that you see on the watch, that is not real gold, that is gold plated, but customers don't mind paying $10,000 for a watch. Maybe the cost of the watch is maybe $200. So you see so the point that I'm going to make is not the value, is not the cost that you are spending to make the product, but it is how the customers perceive the product that is more important in determining the profitability of the company. Second one is the price. The price a company charges is typically less than the value assigned or the perceived value of consumer. So if the consumer perceives that the product is worth $200, probably you do not charge $200, you probably charge $150. Customers captures that difference between that perceived value and the price as consumer surplus, which occurs because the company is competing with other companies, so it must charge a lower price than it could as a monopoly supplier. So if you charge more price, then you may see that your customers are not buying the product, but they're actually defecting you and going to the competitors who are selling it at a lower price, but their product is offering almost the same kind of value. So that is why never charge a price that is equivalent to the perceived value of the customer. And the third factor that causes the price to be lower than the value is the impossibility of segmenting the market. So the company can charge each customer a price that reflects that individual's reservation price. So maybe one customer is perceiving that the value is $200, another customer is perceiving that it is $150, but company cannot do market segmentation in such a way so that it can charge a individual price for every individual customer. So we have to choose an average price in here. But the point that is important is that never charge the perceived value that the customers are willing to pay. Always charge a price that is lower than what the customer are willing to pay. Now this figure shows the pricing options. There are two options to increase utility value for the purpose of increasing profitability. Number one, a company can raise prices to reflect the higher value by raising prices more than its cost increase. You can see that it is this situation in option 1 to the right hand side. So there is a smaller gap between value and price. That means you are charging almost what the customers were willing to pay. That could be dangerous, because then you can invite many other competitors to the market who can offer the same kind of product with the similar kind of values, but they can sell at a cheaper price. Then you lose all of your customers. But the second options with the left hand side, you can see here the company lowers prices to expand unit volume. So customers are willing to pay probably the same price. You see P1 in both cases, sorry, V in both cases. But in here we do not charge a higher price, we are charging a lower price than what the customers are willing to pay. So there is a large gap between value and price. In here the company's profit margin is equal to the difference between price and cost. In both cases you see P and C and P and C. In both the cases the price margin is same, whereas the consumer surplus is equal to the difference between value and price. That is, we can see that the consumer surplus is the difference between V and P, which is higher for option 2 and very low for option 1. Now the company makes a profit so long as the price is greater than the cost. Its profit rate will be greater the lower the costs are relative to the price. The lower the competitive intensity, the greater the difference that can exist between price and value. So in here, both the companies are actually making the same amount of profit, but in one way, the option 1, it is a little bit risky because the consumer surplus figure is very low in here. You're charging almost the similar price that the customers are willing to pay. But in case of option 2, you are giving consumer more consumer value. So they will probably keep buying more. The demand will be creating more and more. And the company can make product more attractive by raising cost in option 1, but also raising utility. So but under option 2, the company can lower its price, creating a higher value, and by doing so they can create more demand and increase volume of sales. So that is probably a better options. You know why? Because you also achieve economies of scale because you are selling more. When the demand is more, or when you are able to create more demand by reducing the price of the product, that means you will be also able to produce more. And when you produce more, it will allow your company to reduce its cost. So this is a better option than the option 1. Now, low cost and differentiations are two basic strategies we just discussed for creating value and attracting competitive advantage in an industry, and that we have discussed are shown in slide number 8. Competitive advantage and higher profits goes to those companies that can create superior value. And the way to create superior value is to drive down the cost structure of the business and or differentiate the product in some way so that consumers value it more and are prepared to pay a premium price. So two ways we can, if you see the figure in here, you can generate more profit either by raising the price or by cutting down the cost. Okay, so to me, I think by raising the price would be a better option if that can be done by enhancing the perceived value of customers. Otherwise, you cannot raise the price if you want to, because then customers will not be willing to pay if they see that it doesn't really offer them any better value. So my point is, try to create more perceived value or enhance the perceived value by making the product more differentiated than raising the cost. Okay, that would be better if you have the options. Now, taking that example into a case, we just check the difference between how Apple and Samsung create more profit or they create value. Okay, now Apple creates more value because of many reasons. Some of the reasons that we can say that they create value with the elegance of their design for the iPhone, its easy to use interface, its onboard applications such as iTunes and iCloud, and the fact that Apple has encouraged a healthy ecosystem of developers to write third-party application and run on the phone. Apple has been so successful at differentiating its product along this dimension that is able to charge a premium price for its iPhone relative to its offering from its competitors Samsung, HTC, and the like. You see, so they are charging premium price because they have been able to create enhanced perceived value in the mind of the customer. Customer believe that this is a better product, so they don't mind paying a premium price. At the same time, it sells so many iPhones that the company has been able to achieve enormous economies of scale in production and the purchasing of components, which has driven down the average unit cost of the iPhone. Thus, even though the iPhone makes use of expensive materials such as brushed aluminum casing and a Gorilla Glass screen, Apple has been able to charge a higher price and has lower cost than its rival. Although Samsung sold more units than Apple in 2016, Apple was able to capture 90% of all profit in the global smartphone industry for that year. Samsung captured the remaining 9% with no other smartphone supplier making money. So that is why I'm saying, instead of trying to only cut down the cost of the product, it is always better to provide better value to the customer so that their perceived value gets higher and they don't mind paying a premium price for their product, and that is how you make more profit per unit. Okay, and when you make more profit per unit, that means you are selling more unit, and when you sell more unit, you produce in more quantity. That helps you to also achieve economies of scale, which comes with the volumes of production. So with the understanding that superior value and competitive advantage does not always have to be attained through a low cost structure, the major idea that we are going to focusing on here is to enhancing the gap between the perceived utility and cost of production. And this gap should be greater than the gap attained by your competitors. Now, this figure shows the company's value chains, which is a sequence of interrelated activities for transforming inputs into outputs that customers value. The value chain actually identifies where in the company we can create value, or in other words, which functions of the company creates value for customers. So the value chain process consists of a number of primary activities and support activities, and each of them can add value to the product. Primary activities have to do with the design, creation, and delivery of the product, its marketing, and its support and after sales service. There are essentially 4 primary activities: research and development, production, marketing and sales, and customer service. Research and development is concerned with the design of products and production process. Research and development can develop superior product designs which increases the functionality of the product. Alternatively, research and development may also develop more efficient production process, lowering cost. So it actually creates value in both ways. One is by making the product more attractive and by also reducing the cost of product. Production is concerned with the creation of goods and service. The production function creates value by performing its activities efficiently so that lower cost result. Production can also create value by performing its activities in a way that is consistent with the high product quality, which leads to differentiation and lower cost. Marketing and sales functions create value through brand positioning and advertising, which increases the perceived value of the product. They also create value by discovering consumer needs and communicating them to the research and development function and marketing function. Research and development function and production function of the company, which can then design products that better match customers' needs. The role of consumer service function is to provide after-sale service and support. This function can create a perception of superior value in the minds of consumers by solving customers' problems promptly and supporting customers after they have purchased the product. In addition to this, we have support activities that can also create value. The support activities include the materials management or logistic functions, which controls the transmission of physical materials through the value chain, from procurement through the production into distribution. The efficiency with which this function is carried out can significantly lower cost and thereby creating more value. The human resource functions helps to create value by ensuring that the company has the right mix of skilled people to perform its value creation activities effectively. It is also the job of the human resource function to ensure that people are adequately trained, motivated, and compensated to perform their value creation tasks. Information system refers largely to the electronic systems for managing inventory, tracking sales, pricing products, selling products, dealing with customer service inquiries, and so on. Information systems, when coupled with the communication features of the internet, are holding out the promise of being able to alter the efficiency and effectiveness with which a company manages its other value chain activities. With the use of information technologies, we have seen that how companies are being able to cut down their costs, especially in the times of COVID. The final support activity is the company infrastructure or the company-wide context within which all the other value creation activities take place. Now, the infrastructure includes the organizational structure, the control system, the organizational culture, the leadership. All these things come under the infrastructure of the company. They also create value. If your manager is very good in strategic planning or environmental analysis or designing a good structure of the organization, that could help company either to provide product at a lower cost or to provide a product that the customer needs. So this is how the structure of the company or infrastructure of the company creates value. If we take the case of the Spanish fashion retailer Zara, which is one of the fastest growing and most successful companies in the ready-made garments industry, we see the basis for their success is the company's speed in going from design to merchandise in stores. Zara can have products in stores in just 5 weeks as opposed to the 9 months of other fashion companies. This speed to market is achieved through competence in design, information system, and logistics management. Zara owns its own factories, designers, and stores. The designers are in close contact with the stores and can respond to changing trends very quickly. The company purchases basic textiles from global suppliers but performs the final production activities in its own facilities using computer control machinery to cut the fabric. Zara has excess production capacity to respond to trends quickly. At the same time, Zara underproduces products to create scarcity value, which means that customers snap up times when they are offered. Which means that customers snap up items when they are offered. This lowers Zara's inventory cost and leaves fewer products to be marked down. This case illustrates how Zara has built a competitive advantage over other fashion retailers by using competencies in design, information systems, and logistics management. So these are the 3 areas: where they create value. The speed at which this retailer is able to introduce new products is a major advantage in a trend-driven market. Now, the value chain framework is useful because it enables firms to understand which parts of the operations, either primary activities or support activities, create value, which enables managers to study the firm's resources and capabilities in relationship to these primary and support activities. A firm is likely to engage in outsourcing when it identifies primary and support activities in which its resources and capabilities are neither sources of competencies or nor of sustainable competitive advantage. So if I see that any of our functions or any functions or any primary or support activities is unable to create value, then we rather should outsource that activity. So what is outsourcing? Outsourcing is the purchase of a value creating activity from an outside supplier that can provide the greatest value. Because we cannot create value, because we are not expert in that area, so maybe someone else is able to offer that. So when a garments factory, when they are very good in producing, maybe they are not good in designing, so they can outsource the designing functions to some other company because which are really good in outsourcing. Firm should outsource only when the activities that they are running cannot create any value, and that activities are at a substantial disadvantage compared to competitors. So if our design is not good compared to our competitors, we just outsource it. Okay, with that, so let's move on to the building blocks of competitive advantage. Now we have seen that competitive advantage can be achieved in two ways. One is you can be a low cost producer, or you can be a differentiator. If you are a low cost producer, you are basically able to offer the product at a cheaper price compared to your competitors. And if your product is differentiated, that means it creates more value for the customers, then you can charge premium price to your customer. So having said that, we now identify that there are four building blocks of competitive advantage. They are superior efficiency, superior quality, superior innovation, and superior customer responsiveness. We call them generic because they represent actions that any company can adopt irrespective of industry. The factors are all highly interrelated. So if a company achieves competitive advantage based on superior innovations, it is believed that the company's product would be also highly customer responsive product, or a product with superior quality, because innovations and quality, they are connected. Similarly, quality and efficiency is also connected. If the product is high quality, that means it reduces the cost, other cost, in so many ways. So for example, if you buy a high quality machine, your repair cost, your insurance cost will be lower too. So that quality actually helps you to reduce your cost. Efficiency is measured by the cost of inputs required to produce a given output. The more efficient a company, the lower the cost of inputs required to produce a given output. This efficiency helps a company attain a low cost competitive advantage. One of the keys to achieving high efficiency is utilizing inputs in the most productive way possible. Companies with high employee productivity and capital productivity will have a low cost of production. Quality products are goods and services that have attributes that customers perceive as desirable. A product is said to have superior quality when customers perceive that its attributes provide them with higher quality than the attributes of products sold by its rivals. When customers evaluate the quality of a product, they measure it against two kinds of attributes. One is quality as excellence in terms of the product design and styling, and the quality as reliability, meaning the product will consistently doing the job it is designed for. Quality applies equally to goods and services. Providing high quality products create a brand name reputation for a company's products. In turn, this enhanced reputation allows the company to charge a higher price for its products. Higher product quality can also result in greater efficiency, as I just mentioned, with less employee time wasted fixing defective products or services. Successful innovation gives a company something unique that its competitors lack. That is, until imitation occurs or until it is copied by the competitors. This uniqueness allows a company to differentiate and charge a premium price. Successful innovation may also allow a company to reduce its unit cost because it improves the functionality. And if you take the case of a computer or laptop, you see that every year the quality of the computer is increasing, but the cost is going down because now probably you need less equipment and parts, and or you have better skills to produce the product, so the cost is going down. At the same time, like when the product is highly innovative and high quality product, then you can sell more units. It means when you sell more units, meaning we have to produce in larger quantity, and that leads to the economies of scale for the company. Now, out of these 4 building blocks, innovation is perhaps the most powerful building block of competitive advantage, as no advantage lasts forever and rivals will always eventually imitate the valuable products and process. The only way to stay ahead of your competition is through constant innovations in products and process. Nevertheless, innovation alone may not be enough to generate high returns. It is the joining of innovation with superior quality, efficiency, and customer responsiveness that is particularly valuable. Finally, achieving customer responsiveness requires that a company gives its customers exactly what they want and when they want it. It involves doing everything possible to identify customer needs and satisfy those needs. So in order to achieve these building blocks, companies need to build competencies and resources in both of their primary and secondary activities. And the resources and competencies should be unique, should be valuable, should have few substitute or no substitute, and it should be difficult for competitors to copy. Having said that, we now move to the next slide, which is how, once we gain the competitive advantage, how do we make sure that we do not lose it? As I have already mentioned, that every competitive advantage is temporary advantage, because sooner or later it would be duplicated by competitors. So manager's job is to make the process more difficult for imitation, and the process of imitation should be longer than sooner. 3 factors lead to durability of your competitive advantage. These includes high barriers to imitation, poor capability of competitors, and low dynamism in the industry. Let's discuss this a little bit detail. Barriers to imitations are factors that make it difficult for a competitor to copy a company's distinctive competencies. The longer it takes to imitate a company's distinctive competencies, the greater the opportunity for the company to improve on that competencies or build other competencies. The easiest distinctive competencies to imitate are those based on firm-specific tangible resources. Remember, I told you that if you build your core competencies or distinctive competency based on tangible resources such as building, plant, and equipment, these would be more visible to competitors and they can be readily purchased or duplicated. But intangible resources and capabilities are more difficult to imitate, like brand names symbolizes a company's reputation and they are protected by law. Again, talented human resources, that human capital is another one that other companies cannot copy so easily. You can still copy it, but then you have to maybe spend a huge amount of money. Maybe you need to hire the whole team. These days, no skill is actually retained by just one employee. People work in a team. So maybe if the company invests heavily, then to buy the team, to procure the team, then maybe the company may lose their competitive advantage. For example, if you really want to do good, say Manchester United Football Club, if you want to copy their competitive advantage, it doesn't really, that competitive advantage is not actually belonging to just one team member, because team works in coherence, in collaboration with other people. So in order to copy the distinctive competencies of Manchester United, probably their competitor need to buy the whole team, and that could be very, very expensive. So managers should try to build competencies based on capabilities and intangible resources than tangible resources. That is a very important lesson for in this session actually. Second one is inertia, addressing inertia, like firms with a low absorptive capacity. That means the firm need to have the ability to identify, assimilate, and utilize new knowledge. But some firms may not have this absorptive capacity. They have it in lower degree, and they may experience an initial internal inertia that slows their ability to innovate and imitate. So when a company is committed to a particular way of doing business based on a set of resources and capabilities, they will find it difficult to respond to new competition if doing so requires a break of this commitment. And that is probably the reason that many of the American automobile companies are not able to compete with the automobile companies coming from the Europe and Japan, mainly because their strategic commitment or the American automobile company's strategic commitment is to make large size, big size automobile, highly durable, and even if they want to change it, they cannot, because they are set to do or they are set to actually make that kind of product. And the third one is industry dynamism, which refers to the rate of product innovations, especially in a highly dynamic, or sometimes we say highly hyper competitive industry. Innovation takes place very rapidly, which means that product life cycles are shortening and that competitive advantage can be very transitory. Durability of competitive advantage is difficult for any company to sustain in this highly dynamic or hyper competitive industry. Now, the next question comes like why firms fail and how we can avoid this failure and sustain our competitive advantage. Now, failing companies are not just below average companies, they earn very low or negative profits. There are principally three related reasons for failure. One is inertia, prior strategic commitment, and the Icarus paradox. The inertia argument is that companies find it difficult to change their strategies and structure in order to adapt to changing competitive conditions. So they are not really able to change. An organization's capabilities contribute to inertia. An organization's capabilities contribute to developing this inertia because they are difficult to change. Core competencies turn into competitive rigidities. That means the core competencies that we have developed have become now our rigidities, and we cannot change it. Changing capabilities would require a redistribution of power and influence among the key decision makers, and therefore it will be resisted. So if a company that was delivering, or if a university that was delivering face-to-face academic classroom delivery, if they want to change it, because the company is not used to live in this kind of culture, so there will be a lot of resistance, and that is what we see in many universities. They do not want to go for online delivery, classroom lecture delivery, because they're not habituated to do this. And whenever someone raises these questions of integrating online system in lecture delivery, they face a lot of challenges and resistance from the incumbent employee and even leadership. So, and then fighting starts, but new blood can help in here. So thus capabilities can provide competitive advantage and also competitive disadvantage. So sometimes the capabilities were good when it was actually adding value, but now we are not able to add value because it has become as a competitive disadvantage. Number two, prior strategic commitment, such as investment in specialized resources, may also contribute to competitive failure because these resources are not well suited for other uses. For example, if you buy a machine that can only probably bend metal, and now if you want to produce product using plastic, this machine may not be able or is not properly cannot be utilized to bend plastics. So because we cannot use the same specialized asset is normally very expensive. So because we cannot change, or because we need to invest a big sum of money to buy the new machine to bend the plastic, so we say, don't worry, we are not really going into that kind of business. So we'll still stay in the same metal bending business. And the third one is Icarus paradox. It is based on the Greek myths of Icarus, who made himself a pair of wings from wax and feathers, and then flew so well that he went too close to the sun, which melted the wings, and he plunged into his death. So he fell in the sea and he died in there. The paradox is that his greatest asset, his ability to fly, gave rise to his demise. It was basically a kind of it becomes a disadvantage. Many successful companies become so dazzled by their own early success that they believe that pursuing the same course of action is the way to future success. So maybe we were successful by doing something previously, and we believe that this would be if we continue doing the same thing, we'll continue to be successful. but that doesn't happen. It's like the stock market. When you see that the stock price is going high and high and high, you still believe that it will go much higher and higher, and then suddenly you see that it started falling and you lose all of your investment in there. So this attitude, however, leads a company to become so specialized and inner directed that it loses sight of market realities and the fundamental requirements for achieving a competitive advantage. Sooner or later, they experience failure. And the final one, how can we avoid this failure? In order to avoid this failure, companies can focus on the building blocks of the competitive advantage, institute continuous improvement and learning, track best industrial practices, and use benchmarking and overcome inertia. Managers can also learn to exploit luck. Now, let's discuss these things a little bit detail. Number one is the first thing that managers need to do is, in order to avoid failure, that they have to continue focusing on the 4 generic building blocks of competitive advantage, which is efficiency, quality, innovation, and customer responsiveness. And to do whatever is necessary to develop distinctive competencies that contribute to our superior performance in these areas. So you have to keep on building new distinctive competencies, at the same time improve your existing distinctive competencies. So Apple does not only sustain its competitive advantage in design and innovation, but it also create new competencies, like they come up with the better quality camera, better sound quality, or many other ways they improve their distinctive competencies. Second one is, company should maintain a competitive advantage over its time by continually improving its efficiency, quality, innovation, and customer responsibility. So the first one is you have to focus on this, and second one is you have to continually improve these 4 building blocks of competitive advantage. The most successful firms are those that continually learn, seek out ways of improving their operations, and constantly upgrade the value of their distinctive competencies or creating new competencies. It's basically that you are adopting the philosophy of quality management, continuous improvement. So that is the same thing that you apply in here. You have to learn. You should not have any boundary to learn. So you should be using a boundaryless behavior approach. That means you should learn from anywhere, any part of the organization or outside the organization, and then improve on a continuous basis. Third one is to identify the best industrial practice and adopt it. So you identify why company X is doing good in terms of creating competitive advantage. If you see that they are focusing more on innovation, you also try to do that. If you see that they are improving their quality, just try to do that. Okay, that is one way, which is on industry best practice. But industry best practice is good, but to me, or if you ask me like what is the better alternative, my suggestions would be that you focus on not only the best practice, but also the industry's next practice. Because next practice, when we talk about the next, it means you are actually aligning this concept with the innovations or tendency to learn and innovate new. You don't always have to follow, you need to lead. So you become the number one in the industry by becoming more innovative. So best practice is good, but to me, it is the next practice which is more valuable. And the next one is the ability to overcome inertial barriers. This is, as I said, that this is a bit difficult, changing inertia, but leadership in the top level can change. Changing the system, top level management is hard sometimes. So but when you see that you are stuck, you really cannot achieve competitive advantage anymore, or you are experiencing competitive disadvantage, then probably it is a time to actually transform the industries, the company's whole strategies and resources and core competencies. So if we see that many universities these days are offering subjects that has no demand, they are losing their revenue, so leadership can come and they can check the market, or they can build some new kind of core competencies that can create a product that is not available in the market and that offers more value to the customers, unique value and better value. But you cannot do it, as I say, you need to change the leadership at the top. Finally, the luck can play a critical role in determining competitive success and failure, but it is an unconvincing explanation for the persistent success of a company. It is difficult to imagine how sustained excellence could be the product of anything other than conscious effort, that is, of strategy. However, companies can be flexible and prepared to exploit lucky breaks as they occur. Sometimes they do. Sometimes you see that for many companies, like with the COVID, it has brought them luck, especially the companies that makes mask and that makes ventilator and other product. So for them, it is something happened without any kind of plan. Now, with this, I conclude the session by putting whatever we have learned so far, or the major focus of this today's session. As we said, that in order to achieve competitive advantage, company needs to intervene, or company needs to build resources and capabilities, okay, in a way that can give us a distinctive competencies. That means these resources and capabilities are unique and valuable and rare, and is difficult to copy, and it has got no substitutions, or they have got few substitutions. What we say here, that any resource can have the ability to create core competencies, but if you create core competencies based on intangible resources and capabilities, that will sustain for a longer period of time. Because if your core competency is based on tangible resources, that would be easier for your competitors to observe and copy. So whenever we build our resources and core competencies and capabilities, we need to make sure that we have these 4 criteria. Otherwise, it will not create any sustainable competitive advantage. One is, it has to be the distinctive competency or core competency, is the same name, has to be valuable, rare, it has to be costly to imitate. If it is easy to imitate, then you lose your competitive advantage. And if there is no substitutions or few substitutions. The other point that we said, that with the value chain analysis, that actually help us to identify which activities in the company can create value directly or indirectly. If it is directly, it is basically the primary activities. If it is created indirectly, that is normally done by the support activities. So we need both types of activities, but whenever we design as manager, we must make sure that whatever we do in the company, that actually create distinctive core competencies, which is the foundation of sustained competitive advantage. If we cannot create any value, we just outsource it, because outsourcing would be cheaper. At the same time, that would be also high quality, because those guys or those factories or those companies that we are outsourcing to are expert in their areas. With that, we finish. Thank you all.